Hello, it's Julie. Today I want to talk about an old handicraft technique that I've just learnt. It's called Nålebinding in Norwegian, or knotless netting, knotless knitting, and single needle knitting in English. It predates both knitting and crochet. The technique is about 6,000 years old. Old fabric using this technique have been found in Egypt, in Peru, in the Nordic countries and in England, to mention a few. The only things you need are a needle and some yarn. This needle is specifically made for this technique. Historically, the needles were made out of bone or antler or wood, like this one. But you can also use a metal needle like this or make a bigger needle like this one out of metal or plastic. The technique involves using the free end of the yarn to pull through successive loops. When one strand of yarn, typically 2 meters long, is all used up, a new strand is joined to the old one by felting. This is why you need wool like this, preferably pure wool, that's easy to felt. This technique does not involve loops like knitting or crocheting. It can't be just pulled apart. So if a hole appears in the fabric, you can just cut away the offending part and use this technique to make new fabric. I've just learned this technique and I've made a few things. They're definitely not perfect, but I've tried. These are some mittens I've made. One is obviously bigger than the other. It's not very easy to see what you've done or where you increased or decreased in the stitch number. And that leads to irregular things, especially when you're a beginner like me. The stitch used to make these is the Oslo stitch. Well, these wrist warmers are made using what's called a Finnish stitch. This technique has been kept alive to a much greater degree in Finland, and the book I have about it is written by a Finnish woman. This book is called Med en nål, or With a Needle, and it's written by Mervi Passanen. As far as I know, it's only available in Norwegian and Finnish, so further information about Nålebinding in English must be found on the internet. The great thing about this technique for me is that it doesn't hurt my hands or my wrists. Knitting and crocheting is often painful for me. This technique, however, is much gentler on the hands. I don't feel the need to hold anything very tightly, and since you're using a needle with a long thread, you get the stretch from pulling it through that you don't get when you're knitting or crocheting. Now I know what I'll be spending the evenings doing this summer. Let me know if you want an instructional video. I can make one of those. I hope you liked this video and I'll see you next time. Ha there!